Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
I have a motion for approval and a second.
Turek, aye.
Ellison, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 2, announcements. Anything at this point to announce?
I just have one quick announcement, Mayor, if I can take this little privilege. Pineview Middle School has a Spirit Week they do each year and love to invite first responders and all public officials to it. And I have this, make sure I got this correctly. It will be the third Wednesday in September. And I just want to invite all the council members. It'll be Wednesday the 19th, come at 8 a.m. And we'll have breakfast cooked up for you and a whole bunch of kids that want to know who you are. We have some staff that would really like kids to be more aware of their elected officials they're great people. And they might have a little sticker or a game to give you guys. So if a student comes up and recognizes you, you might give them a sticker and they might get a prize because they recognize who you are. But if you can come, we would love to have you. And I will send an official email or a text to verify time and date for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that on your calendar, September 19th. Hey, thank you. No other announcements? Oh, that's right. Next week on the 28th from 4:30 to 7:30, we will have an open house to look at the 6 potential, I guess, alternatives. That's true to the, with the environmental assessment on the interchange. It will be at the community center, correct, from 4:30 to 7:30. We invite all within our voice to attend and bring your questions and comments and concerns and move forward. Item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any to declare from the council at this time on this agenda? If not, we'll move forward with our consent agenda to approve the minutes of the city council meeting of 8/7/17, 8/7/18, 8/18, 8/8/18, approval of the board audit report, and then we'll do the other 2 in a minute.
So we're not going to include the special event in that.
I guess we could, and the final plats, we might as well. Item C, approve the special event for Out of the Darkness Community Walk held September 29th at Highland Park. American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Inc. Teresa, is she here? And then final plats for Washington Vista Phase 5A, located at the southeast corner of Green Spring Drive and Washington Parkway. First Nation Investments in consideration to approve a final plat for Washington Vista Phase 5B, located approximately 2100 North Washington Parkway. Again, applicant First Nation Investments LLC.
I actually have a question for Drew. Not necessarily on the final plats for Vistas up there, but they had that section of the north that was the PUD. Is that PUD, that's timed out now, right?
It hasn't. It was before you changed the new PUDs where we don't time out, we don't time out at all, but that one actually did before so it's back to an R110 because of the old standard was that it reverts back to its original zoning. So yeah, it timed out probably 4 or 5 months before the new PUDs got put in place, or else it would just stay PUD without a design approval, but that one was still under the old code.
What's the status up there? Do they still have this conditional use on that running a rock plant?
That timed out as well. They never did end up hauling anything off of it because they got into an internal mess, is all I'll just put. And so nothing ever moved. They thought about coming back in. Someone was going to reapply for that. And I
So
guess
we just
the
got piles
superintendent was trying to get somebody, and the owner said, I'm not giving away that material for free, so to speak. So then it is what it is today. If you're to drive up, there's no approvals to do any moving off of, taking in, but the PUD is gone. It's back to an R110. So I hope that answered your question there.
Clear as mud.
Councilman Bellison, you started to say there's piles of, is it rocks that are sitting out there?
Yeah, they had material that they crushed. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward, aye.
Clef eye.
Granger, aye.
Fellas, no.
Sure, guy.
All right, those are all approved. Item 5, proclamation. I'm going to read a proclamation in effort to increase awareness of the anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America. Whereas September 17th, 2018 marks the 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document, this memorial anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas public law guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth F. Nielsen, Mayor of Washington City, do proclaim the week of September 17th to the 23rd, 2018 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution, written in 1787, by diligently protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering the lost right may never be regained. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of Washington City, Utah, this 22nd day of August, 2018. We'll move on to item 6, public hearing.
Mayor, sorry,
Yes.
just wondered about this. I was not aware if we've done this. I'm sure we've done this in the past.
Yeah.
But maybe just tell me a little quickly where that came from and where that
Well,
started.
it actually came from our Chris Stewart, where it actually originated
Oh, okay.
from our congressman.
Great.
And it trickled down through Governor Herbert on down through. And usually Governor Herbert has one this time of year that he would like us to, a resolution on something. So we'll probably do another one on, I don't know.
Very
It
interesting.
typically generates through our congressmen or our senators.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Item 6, public hearing and related resolution. Item A, public hearing for consideration to approve a zone change request Z-18-12 by amending the PUD for villas at Green Springs, located at north end of Green Spring Drive. Applicant Brennan Holdings, number 100 LLC, Jim Raines.
bear with me. We're going to use Elmo due to the fact that we're not sure where the exhibit went inside this fun little box. So thank goodness I have the file with me, and then I'll kind of show you what's being presented. And then
You
we
have
have,
the same Google Docs problems I have. then.
well, this is the weirdest thing. We got, the exhibit got changed out and the agenda's in its place of August 1st. Strangest thing. So bear with, we'll get you right up to where you need to be. It's fairly straightforward for you to look at. The applicant's requesting approval to change the zoning of approximately 28.665 acres. This, of course, is the villas at the far end of Green Spring Drive. It's part of, you see a couple of the homes in phase one, that lots 401, 2, 3, and 4, I think have units on them right now. I think they started building the swimming pool area there, and another, I think 414 is under construction. That's phase one of the villas at Green Spring. This we're going to be referencing and making reference to lots number 524, 25, 26. This is how we used to do it in the old days before iPads. So it's the 4 lots that are in question tonight. So I'll just jump in. The developer and the applicant are wishing to add these 4 lots to this proposed PUD project. And I'll just go through the general plan designation here is low density residential. The zoning up at this particular area, there is open space to the north, which is the Turtle Reserve. Single family residential, 8,000 and 10,000 square foot, or the R18 and R110 to the east, west, and south. Applicant again is wishing to add 4 building lots to the project, and those are the 4 in question. Basically, I'm going to invite actually Mr. Rains to come up. He can explain exactly why they're asking this, but I'm going to bring up the current one so you see what is in place, and I'll let Jim explain what happened as they were up doing all the excavating on this particular project and why they're here before you tonight with that. But I will just let you know the Planning Commission held a public hearing August 1st of this month. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-18-12 for the zone change request from the old PUD to the proposed new planned unit development residential, because now we've changed those. And so it'll have a PUD with an R request for the single family development standards. And this is on to you, the City Council, based on, of course, the original findings and the original conditions of the project. So with that, I will now find the old one. You can see what was there. Then I'll have Jim come up and explain what happened, and then we'll go to that point. So,
Will you remind me, were there any conditions put on that by the Planning Commission? Did they add anything to that?
they didn't add, they just kept the standard. They understood what happened.
Yeah.
And I'll let, again, Jim explain that to you folks, and they could see what the situation was, and we're in agreement that probably is a good solution for them, is to add the 4 lots. So let me find that for you as Jim makes his way up.
Jim Rains with Brennan Holdings. First, we never like to come back and ask for more after we've already got approval. This is a little bit of a unique situation, so we apologize that we're coming back here, but it's really a grading and the topography issue. You can see the green area here, and then right here in this corner. What we were trying to do in that situation, you see the contour lines. Those are 2-foot contour lines. So there's about 20 feet, 12 to 20 feet difference in elevation along there. And we're trying to preserve that hillside. A lot of our Green Springs project was the red sandstone. If you've been out there, you've seen this excavated. Unfortunately, this little cove was a little bit unique to the Green Springs area. It's kind of a rubble, round, white lava rock. So there wasn't any of the sandstone, anything to preserve in there. As we excavated the hill and cut it in, there was just really nothing there of value but a ugly excavated site. And so we really looked at how we could do that. I'll start over here at lot 548, which is this area. After we got 544 and those lot, the numbers changed, so I apologize. But as we got that graded, it left this ugly cut slope hill sitting there that was just kind of a point. What we really wanted to do was preserve this face of this hillside. So as you're in Green Springs, you're looking out that way. We didn't destroy the face of that hill. We left that natural, and we put the homes lower and back, so we didn't affect the view shed of the rest of our project. But once that was graded, it was unsightly. We had to do something with it. And once we cut that down and shaped it, it really just fit for a lot. So that was the reason on that. And then the steps on those 3 lots in there, we just couldn't come up with anything that made sense as an amenity. You know, we could have rocked it and just done something with it, but it really wasn't an amenity to the project. We'd rather take the money that we were going to spend on that, put it in the central area, trails, and added, you'll see on our new plan, we've added more parking spaces for the trails. The trail we've got in phase 1 that winds and kind of up that hill, if you've been out there, is a tremendously used trail. We barely got that thing built before we had, you know, people using it. And then if you'll remember where it says Red Cliffs Reserve Trailhead, that was a trailhead that was never there. We went to the HCAC and got that approved. That's an additional trailhead to get into the reserve. So we feel like it's a tremendous amenity for our project and our other projects, but also the entire Green Springs area. I think being able to hike and utilize the Red Cliffs Reserve is a tremendous asset the city has, and we wanted to enhance that. So we've got the trail going up the hill from phase 1, and then the trail coming through phase 2, and then we added parking where it says 32-foot private road where you see the trail in that open space corridor. We added more parking in there, you can see. So not only our residents can use the trail systems, but people can drive up there, park, get on the trail, get on the reserve.
Can you
use it.
point out where you added the parking?
Right here.
Okay.
There was always some here, yeah. So we just think we can make a better amenity for not only our project, or for our other projects and for Green Springs in general. The Red Cliffs Trailhead Reserve is the Lighthouse Trail, if you're familiar with the reserve. I know Colleen is. It's, I guess, a fairly heavily used mountain bike trail. And so this gives them a nice access to that Ice House Trail. So basically, we'd rather take and make the amenity that we have better, nicer, more usable, and not just try to put something over there where 524, 25, and 26 was. It really didn't make sense and really wasn't usable. And it's just so steep, there's nothing you can do with it. So, short story, that's what we're trying to do. We think it makes it a better project, and it doesn't leave kind of an unsightly. I think the worst, personally, the thing I hate worse about grading is when you leave cut slopes and leave them there forever, like the Blood Red Scar and Red Hill and St. George and those kind of things. Those things are just there forever. And so we work really hard to try not to leave exposed cut slopes. And so by doing 548 there, it just flattened that out. You go up there now, it's graded. You would never know that wasn't there. We did agree to do a little bit of trail modification here on 548. So there's a little better connection. So we're going to extend the trail here in front of 548. So there's a little better connection here. So if you have any questions, that's in a nutshell what we're looking to do. We still are within the PUD densities. We're not exceeding any of the city ordinances or anything. This could have been applied this way in first. We just thought we could do something better with that hillside, but once we excavated it, this was a better option.
Well, I guess my only question on this is, what prevented this? I know there was a plan for open space and view corridors. Is there anything to deal with our hillside ordinances where this would not be okay, or this still fits just fine? I'm just kind of curious. I'm new.
It didn't fall into
Okay. And that's just a curiosity question for me to learn. I appreciate you letting me know.
It's kind of an isolated little pocket that's unique, kind of a unique topography situation. So, and this is our very last phase. rest of our Green Spring stuff is completed and sold. And this is kind of the end of our project in Green Springs.
At least it does appear that you've gained four building lots
Yeah.
or one little small parking space. If we're looking at equitable open space. I wonder if it's not possible to put that parking a little closer to the trailhead.
Well, we've looked at it, but because of the topography, that's going up so steep right there. As we turn and go, what we'll do is we'll take the additional funds that we would have been using for developing. 548 was always natural open space. It was never usable because that's a steep hillside. So 548, we're not losing any usable open space. It's just hillside. And in fact, we cleaned up the view of the hill better by taking that and cutting it off so there wasn't that exposed cut slope. 524, 25, and 26, we'll take the money that we were going to put into landscape that, even though it really wasn't usable for anything, it was just landscape. We'll take that and put that into the area, the center area where the trail is, and enhance that. So it's quite, as you can see, the contour lines, it's quite a bit of fall across there. It's almost 20 feet across there. And that trail winds up around there, and we'll have rock walls and other things. It'll be a nice looking little area that will be landscaped.
I asked about the other project up there because I was up on 512, 511, looking over at what's going on. But yeah, it does have some slope up there.
Yeah, and it's not pretty dirt, unfortunately.
It's powdery white.
Yeah, it's unique to Green Springs, really, the dirt. If you look up there, I'm not sure what geology caused that to be created that way, but it's really just, and it's not the black, nice looking basalt either. It's the round white stuff. It's just not very attractive.
Will you tell me in the park there, the trail, what does that go to the handle of the tuning fork, if you will, on the right? Does that just tie into the road? Is that, right there. Does it go
This
through
one
the house?
here?
Is there access through the house? Yes.
Yeah, that's just for people within the development can get onto that trail and either go
From
down-
the road.
Yeah, from
So
the road.
it doesn't continue on through that houses there or anything.
No, and this unique part about this project, this is a public road here because it tied in with the planned PUD over here. So this is curb and gutter and sidewalk both sides of the road. These roads interior are private, which don't have the sidewalk. It's really for internal circulation for people in the development can either get and go up the Lighthouse Trail or go down to the clubhouse.
Where does the public road end there on?
This is the
Is it
public
right
road
down the street?
here, all the way to there.
So just
My,
At the time the development turned east, and have a public road through it,
Mhm.
good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
unusual way of managing, just run right into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't ideal, but
Does that squeeze into, it looks like that road.
it lined up with the road that they had planned, which now it's lapsed, but now we're there and they'll have to match us, I guess.
50 to 34. Yeah, this one's here. So we got that intersection.
And we went through a traffic study and the traffic engineers looked at it and it's all been done properly. And that was the same with, that hasn't changed between the amendment. That's always been that way.
All right, any additional questions for Jim? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Any of you out there that are here for this project want to visit about it, you're welcome to.
Decisions on this in 2 weeks, correct?
Right. 3
It's
weeks.
actually gonna be
Unfortunately, it's going to be 5 weeks because we have an extra Wednesday at the end of this month. The first council meeting in September never was scheduled. It's usually the League of Cities week. So it's actually going to be, and then it's 2 weeks. It's a 5 week holdover in this case. Normally a 2 week, but because of circumstances will be the last council meeting in September. Can't remember what that date is, but it's over a month.
All right.
Probably just one more piece of information is we are trying with the Red Cliffs Reserve to get parking on the other side of the fence too. Though we haven't finished all that.
Thank you. If not, anybody will entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Mayor, I'll make the motion. We close our public hearing.
There's
Are you here for the public hearing?
In Green Spring?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, come on up. No worries.
Hi,
Hi.
sorry about that. I'm Janine Lust and I live in, help me, Washington Vista, out at the end of Green Springs Drive. And I was here when this was heard the first time. And my concern, I did get a notice for the Planning Commission, but I didn't hear anything about the council meeting. So I was able to get that information, and I'm probably the only one here because I don't think many people know about this proposal. But anyway, I did remember from that meeting that the biggest concern, or one of the biggest concerns, was the density of this development and the size of the lots and the size of the home and size of the home on the lots and the density piece of that. So when I saw this information, I was a little concerned because what you had mentioned at those initial meetings was, well, we've planned for that with this open space. And there was open space in the middle and on the side. But with this proposal, they're taking away that entire, what, 4 to the right? Right, and then you're adding one.
That's a deal. So
Right. Is that why you wanted to put that in? Oh, okay.
I don't need to. Or
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Oh, okay. I'm just concerned about the density piece. And I'm concerned that someone came to the council, asked for approval, got approval, and then came back and asked for more. I have issues with that. I think when somebody does a planning, then you plan it as it is and you respect what's approved and you stick with it. To come back and ask for more and reduce the density, I don't think is a good idea. And I'm asking the council to really take a look at that. And give yourself permission to say no. You know, to me, it's kind of an integrity piece. Not many people know about it.
So you're kind of thinking that if we've lost 5 lots that would have been open space, albeit somewhat unusable as open space, that maybe the lot sizes should have been a little bit larger to compensate.
Possibly.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you have driven up through this subdivision. I mean, they're doing a nice job with laying it all out and so forth, but the lots are small. And the houses fill up pretty much the whole lot. And so I think those of us that were concerned about the density and the visual impact as you drive down Green Springs Drive, this is the hill that you see. I just hate to see any more of the green space go. I really do. And I remember that they first came in with flat roofs, and the citizens of Green Springs were really upset about that. And so they did change it to hip roofs. And the builder mentioned that that would save them money. So I thought, well, that's a good thing. You know, then they'll be happy with this plan and they won't do anything. And then I saw that this was proposed. So I just felt like I needed to say
So
something.
I don't think you were here during Jim Raines' presentation and the
No, I
reasons he
wasn't.
gave. So maybe I'm going to do a poor job of doing that, but I would like to hear just your feedback from that. But the thinking is that the lot for 548 there, if you can see, there was a hill that was removed. They had planned on that to be open space, but it did not look well when they cut in for the other houses and the roads. So they decided that it would look better to have a house on it. And kind of the same thing with the three houses on the right, which was 5, 25, 26, and 27, or did I go the wrong way? 24, 25, and 26, yeah. Was that they were having difficulty making that look nice with the way it sloped. So by the time they went over it, it was yes, it was space, but it wasn't open and beneficial space. So the presentation and the way he did it, and we could have him answer some more questions because I'm not doing it justice, but I would like your feedback on that, if that makes sense to you, if that changes your opinion at all.
One other amendment with Councilman Ward is the developers also said that any money that was going into that open space to make it beautified and good for the residents would be put into the central area to make it even better and more appealing to the people who are there. As one of the concessions, another concession is they will add better parking into that center area. As you can see on this original plan, there is no space for parking. And so one of the concessions is to add parking into the second one to where people could get in and park there to improve it. The other part is up above where it says Red Cliffs Reserves Trailhead. They would like to make some improvements in that also as an exchange to make it where people can get in and out of the Red Cliffs Preserves.
I think that one is already done.
That's in.
Right,
Yeah.
but they're looking for ways to improve everything in that particular area. And they made it very clear, which I think would be good for you to hear, is they understand they came in asking for a number. And due to, as they've been excavating this and seeing it didn't look like they thought, they don't like asking for additional densities. Their intent, hoping, is it would actually make it look better. And that's what was told to us on this. So just trying to give a full scope on what you missed.
Mhm.
Not,
No, I
no
appreciate
opinion, but I would say from my point of view, one little opinion is I do appreciate how the developer is looking for ways to reinvest into the open space. It's not just creating lots for profit. I feel like they have some genuine concerns of trying to improve the amenities in that area for the people who live there. So
What exactly would be the improvements for the open space?
the improvements mostly in the open space is described to me as they may change the trail by lot 548 to better connect into the park in the center area, that open space thing. They may change that up to where it's more, it's easier for pedestrians and everything to get into there.
Beyond that, I don't think we got very many details.
Beyond that, we didn't get many details, but the recommendation is to add the parking and to also invest whatever they were using for the open space for lots 5, 24, 25, and 26 to go into that central open space to improve it and make it even better. So that's as I understand it. Once again, Jim, I apologize. I don't speak exactly as you did. And I appreciate your concerns because these are great concerns.
Well, I felt very similarly during the planning commission, but I have to admit I was swayed by his arguments. But I would like to know from you how you feel about that.
Well, if you don't have specifics on how that open space is going to be improved,
I can get you some.
I mean,
If you'd like to,
I'm just speaking more for
Yeah.
what I'd like to see you
We could
ask
have-
for.
we could have Jim
is-
come back up and give us some information if you'd like to do that right now. Then we could give you. I think the mayor would let you respond. Okay.
I mean, more parking places might improve, but again, that's a developed area now and that's less green space.
It is.
And so,
I am swayed a little. I must admit, I'm swayed a little bit by that. I could see myself parking there and hiking that trail someday.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we need to explain the parking, it's not for their people.
it's for people using the trail.
Get to the trail easy.
Mhm. And people have been using that trail. There have been a lot of people up there using the trail, which is nice. And that's a plus.
I think the biggest concern was by adding these 4 lots, you don't have the cut slope and you don't have a scarred up hillside. So a lot of the open space in the hillside that's up there has been left undisturbed
Mhm.
and it looks good, being left undisturbed. But if you have the grading forces you to cut it, it's not undisturbed anymore and it sticks out like a sore thumb. So if you put a house on it and landscape it, now it's not a sore thumb. So that was a concern with adding those 4 lots.
And I agree with you. I prefer my developers sufficiently clairvoyant to avoid that when they plan, but he did make a nice presentation.
Mhm. Well, and that property does have a lot of contour. It does.
Yes.
It definitely does. I guess I would feel better. This may be asking way too much of you guys. I would feel better if you could get a visual on it and actually see if it would be an improvement. Because to me, it's more houses in an already packed place. But if it's a reasonable request, and I know some of you are builders and have done a lot more of this work than I have, if that is a good argument and it is a solid argument, then yeah, go with it.
Could we ask Jim to come up and just talk about what it is and then maybe tell us when we would see specifics on that? Because they will be presented to us later. Maybe we just talk about when we'll see those specifics. And
Okay.
I think it would be hard to put the value of 4 lots into that open space.
I think it's a difference of the improvement.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
Well, that's why I asked for specifics, because I've heard that they were going to develop the open space more like a park, kind of a manicured park, and then it went to, no, we're going to leave the open space as just
Well, I
open
think the
space.
hillside was always going to be left
So,
native.
oh, then
The
maybe
plan
I
was
didn't
to always
understand
leave
that.
The hillside native.
Okay, so is that still the plan?
Yeah.
So how do you improve native?
Well, this area is, as you see it today, right about that, what's there, been left unexposed. I
Right.
think that that's the native we're talking
Right.
about. This, and that's what that kind of pop, that building. Right? Everything else will be landscape, but, you know, what's customary to our area, crushed rock, the shrubs,
Center
trees, you know, all around the rest of this particular area.
Because they had to.
Left undisturbed as you see it today.
Okay.
Talking about that natural,
Mhm.
that the word open space is, that side of that.
Mhm. Well, and right now, if you look at that, you're not seeing the 546, 547, 548. You're not seeing any of that from what would be.
Is up there. These particular lots that are, they're actually just over the crest of it that they put up there. On the back end, they built a bit of a hanging wall with stone, I think. The rock here, you have to be down, you know, way over here on the street, the end of Washington Parkway, as you look back, you look at the hanging wall, the rest of those lots.
In fact, when you pull up there, you really don't even see them.
If you're on this side looking this way, you don't see them. But if you're on this side looking this way, you will be able to see them. And that's why I was concerned about that 548 coming down for that visual, because that open space area is nice to have that native area. So what area would the money be put to use in that center area where that trail is, or that little?
yeah, I'd
Okay.
prefer Jim to speak to that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me address a couple things. She was concerned about the house sizes. There was a restriction put on this development that the minimum lot size in this is 1,700 square feet. So that's actually a larger requirement than the rest of Green Springs. Most of the rest of the CCNRs in Green Springs are less than 1,700 feet. So the overall plan, and this is to give you some background of this, was to provide the same home size and type and quality that's in the rest of Green Springs on a small lot that didn't have a yard to maintain, that had access to a pool, clubhouse, and trails. So some people just didn't want a big yard. They wanted a nice home, but they didn't want a yard. And that was, and then it was uniquely, it's kind of a unique little pocket that didn't lend itself to other things. So that's just for your background.
I can add to that background a little bit. I did a research on hundreds of homes in the area to see what the average size was.
You did, and I've got that still.
Okay, and it was a lot more than 1,700.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about the CCNRs, what the
I
CCNRs
understand.
require. So we yeah,
Well, most of
No.
the CCNRs up there are 1,400.
yeah.
You have to be
The
at
homes have to
least-
be bigger
These
than
homes have to be
17,
at least
at least
1,700
1,700 square feet. Yeah. So that's just some background, which really doesn't change from the old to the new. That stays the same. I guess I'm going to mention Washington Vista, and it's a beautiful place, and I know you live there, and I don't want to impugn where you live. But one of the real concerns we have in Green Springs is some of the slopes that have been left in Washington Vista are very unsightly. Some real cut slopes up there that you can see that will be there. Part of it's the construction of it's taken so long, and the rock piles and things. But the one thing that we're real cognizant of is not to leave any exposed cut slopes. If you drive through the 300 plus lots that we've done in Green Springs, you'll see all our slopes are landscaped, rock lined, or dressed and treated. There's no dirt graded slopes in any of our projects. They're all landscaped and covered. And remember that the rest of Green Springs that we developed was all straight zoning. It wasn't PD. And we weren't required to put in trails, and we weren't required to put in 30 and 40 and 50-foot wide landscape strips, but we did. So hopefully we've demonstrated to the neighborhoods and to the city that we're trying to make this nice. We want a finished product, and we want something that I can be proud of and that we all can be proud of for years to come. As far as addressing what are we doing to offset the gain of the lots? Well, one, we're building a quality project. We're building a 110-foot right-of-way of Washington Parkway in front of this phase, which in no way in the world is justified by our project, but we're putting it in. We're putting in the transformers, the street lights, the 750 MCM wire that's hugely expensive. We're putting a 16-inch water line in that road, which is for the overall Green Springs area, and which we don't need. We're doing all that as responsible developers. It's not, there's a lot of expense in this. If you go down and look at the project, the frontage of Washington Parkway, which may or may not be the Northern Corridor, I don't want to get into that argument tonight. But, we've provided that right away. We've provided a lot of those improvements. We built the big drainage channel along there, at all our expense. This is a hugely expensive project. In fact, we had to go back and renegotiate our deal with Sittler to make it work, to be quite honest with you. So, we're investing significant dollars in this. By the money that we were going to put in 524, 525, and 26, there was no money in 548 because it was all to be left natural. That will go into meander that trail in such a way that handicapped people and then people can use it instead of trying to go straight up a 20-foot cliff. It'll be meandered, lengthened, and designed in such a way that it's usable, and then it'll be landscaped and completed like the rest of our project is. And that center part where that trail is, yes. That's the significant view from the area. As you stand back in Washington Vista and look at that, what you will see is the face of that hill. And we didn't put homes on the face of that hill, and we don't want an ugly cut slope there. It'll be an improved area that will be attractive. And if you look at our slopes that we cut in our estates and our slopes we've cut in other parts of the projects I've had a lot of very positive comments about how we've addressed those slopes and we've rock lined them. I really encourage all of you to go up and look at what we've done. That will give you, and I'll bring some pictures back when we get to that 5-week meeting, whatever it is, and show you what we've done if you haven't got a chance to get up there. But it's very attractive and it's finished, and it's visually appealing, not only within our development, from all of Green Springs. So that's we could, but doesn't. We could spend a lot more money in there and try to make that. It doesn't benefit the project. It really doesn't benefit. It doesn't improve the viewscape. There's really no benefit to doing it. To do it. And it allows us to recover some of our money so we can make what we have left a little better. It's a financial decision, yes. I'm not going to try to, sugarcoat that at all. But it makes sense for us to put homes in there, hide that scar, rather than just going and spend a lot of money that doesn't have any use to our development. It doesn't have any use to surrounding developments. If you go up and look, we find behind 524, 25, and 26, over on the low property, there's about a 10-foot cut slope there that hopefully will be cut down. Part of the problem we have too is that we don't know where that PUD was going. This was originally designed to mesh with that PUD, and now that has lapsed, and what we're being told is that it probably won't come back, at least as it was originally done, that it's going to have some changes to it. So it's hard for us to plan. We tried to plan for something that was approved that's not going to be built now, and that's another part of the reason that 524, 25, and 26, they're going to have the homes backing onto us more than likely. And if it would continue on and be an open space corridor, I would be okay leaving it and doing it, but that doesn't appear to what it's going to be. So we're going to have this 100-foot wide by, 200-foot strip that has 20-foot fall across it. It just has no usable open space thing. All we would be doing is trying to hide the scar and the mess that we made, and we think we can do that better with homes, get a better financial return, allow us to put that money into that central open space that is visible and it is usable. It was approved, but that approval lapsed.
It did, yeah. To the east of where these are, it was approved, 2 years ago, I think, but the approval's all dead.
And when we originally came in and designed our project, we did that with that project in mind. But now that project hasn't come to fruition, so leaving that open space next to them kind of went away.
And I've walked it up there with they're doing. It drops over off that hill on that east side. We're gonna have some challenges.
Yeah, their piece is tough.
So it wouldn't be up to,
There's really too much grade from them up to us. We got
Yeah,
20
it's
feet
good.
going this way. They got 40 feet going the other way.
It would be interesting to design too. Well,
You live up there. If you go up and look, there's that's a lot low. The low piece is significantly lower than us, and most of it, the slope's on them. Our slope, you can see how the contours wrap back around here, like this. See how these contours are falling this way, and then our contours are falling this way. So our hill comes this way, their hill comes that way. So we come up and then they drop off significantly, and over where they're at, they're 30 to 40 feet lower than where we're at. It's topography driven. It really is. You know how steep it is. What we don't want to do, if you go up there and you look around, there are a lot of exposed cut slopes over in Washington Vista that hopefully, as they finally develop out, will go away somewhat. But to me, they're very unsightly, and that's what we don't want. You have any other questions for me? Or I don't want to keep, you guys have heard me enough, I'm sure. Okay. Okay. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And I'll give you my card and you can give me a call.
Did we send out notifications to? Okay. What's our number?
Yeah, just within the 300 foot, there's more than 30th.
Okay.
The other thing is
All right.
less.
Okay.
Because there's a lot more owners up here now. with
Yeah.
people in Washington
Okay.
Vista, Also the project, seems other projects reserved.
Yeah. Our rules are within 300 feet or a minimum of 30 different homes. So enough people get to know that other people get to know. So you would not have been the only one that was notified.
oh, well, good.
Okay.
When the notice goes out, does it list both the planning commission and this?
Same exact list. It goes out to the planning commission, same one sent out.
But is it one or two?
Just one.
Notices? Gotcha.
I only received one. I can't speak for other people. So,
I would like to say thank you for coming out, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear from our citizens. So thank you.
there's one other thing I want to mention. And this isn't about this project, okay? So I'm kind of switching gears on you. But that's that I see a lot of development going on. in the St. George area. It's really exploding, which is a good thing in some ways. In other ways, it means that all the consuls are having to react and so forth. And my encouragement to you as a consul is to hurry slowly if you can. I lived in a high growth area for 40 years. And
Where was that?
that was in Colorado.
And how long have you lived here?
I've lived here, let me think, 4 years, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. So we watched that growth in Colorado.
Yeah.
And the communities that did say no once in a while, you know, they made some developers unhappy and some builders unhappy. But what happened was when they came back with the plan, it was a better plan. And so they raised the bar. And I just want to encourage you on that, because when it gets really busy, and I saw this happen in Colorado, when it gets really busy, people get reactive rather than proactive. And then you end up with subdivisions that are okay, that are nice. But if people raise the bar a little bit, then you end up getting open space and green belts and trails, and all of that really enhances an area. And the areas where they held the line and got those things, those are the areas that are more pursued in Colorado. So I just want to share that with you. It's not for me to come in here and tell you what to do.
It's not a new concept for us.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Good. Well, and I
Yeah.
just want to encourage you on that because it's worth it. That's what I want to say. If you're putting that effort in and doing that, then good for you. So,
I have to get up and say something for this for this and prior council. This project was originally approved as townhome,
right.
and
I
through
know
the
that.
exact process you just described, you see a much better project.
Okay. So, but thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
How's
I
Rich?
appreciate it.
Janine, how's Rich?
He's good.
Good.
But he
Tell him I
wouldn't
said hi.
come.
Huh?
He wouldn't come. He
Well,
sent me.
Tell him I said hi.
Yeah. I will.
Any others? Thank you so much. Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to close that public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Motion and a second.
Rick, aye.
Fellas and I.
Ranger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you. Move on to item B, public hearing for consideration to approve a zone change request Z-18-13 to change zoning designation from A20 agricultural 20-acre lots to R18 single-family residential 8,000 square foot lot zone located approximately 4100 south and 800 east. Applicant Development Solutions Group.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the applicant's requesting approval to change approximately 33.6 acres from the current Ag 20 to the proposed single-family residential 8,000 square foot or the R18 zoning. The request for the R18 is to develop the parcel, of course, into a future residential development. The general plan use designations for this particular location is the medium density residential, and that carries the 4.5 to 6 dwelling unit per acre density ratio. It also incorporates the zoning districts of R2, R16, and R18. Surrounding zoning to the parcel is A20 to the south and east, with RA1, which is residential agricultural 1 acre minimum, but with the bonus density program to the west, which is known as Treasure Valley, and also the R16 to the north, which is known as Steeplechase. Staff reviewed the requested change, finds it conforms to the general plan.
Can I just ask real quick? Even though Treasure Valley is RA1, what's the effective density or zoning or, you know, of those lots?
They probably ended up in an average of an R18, R110. If I were to go back and do it, they ended up with, I think,
Some of them were fed by alleys and things like, it seems to
Right.
me that's a little bit more R18 or more.
yeah, they have lots because they bordered Stonehenge. The bonus density says whatever you border, you can't be more than one zone classification from that. So Stonehenge was half acre lots. So they were, they had to do the R115s along that road. But they also took advantage of what we call the multiple zoning designations, is they get credit for having varied. So they went anywhere from R18 lots to R115 lots, mingled throughout their development. They built a park as part of the tree line streets. That's where all their bonus density came. But the majority of their project, R18 lots. They even have some, I think, that are under R18. I think there's a couple of 7s in there. So they They use the R16, 8, 10, 12. They have like 5 different lot sizes scattered throughout Treasure Valley. So, again, the request meets the general plan. And again, recently the city council, the planning commission approved the general plan amendment to this area. This is in follow-up for that approval that you gave several months back. Now, the planning commission reviewed the request also, and they held a public hearing on their August 1st, 2018 meeting. The planning commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-18-13 for the change request from A20 to the R18 zoning designation. Of course, that's based upon the findings in your report. So that's there for you. If you have any questions for me now, I did, for those who weren't at the planning commission meeting, which is most of you, I did have the applicant, because they stated to you in their general plan amendment that they needed to go to the R18 just because of, they had laid it out and they had a few lots that were going to have to be right around 8, but most of them would be bigger. So if Terry, you want to unfortunately bring back Elmo.
You said 106 lots. You don't have the lot layout in this, but that's what they're,
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna.
You're-
Yeah, we're gonna bring that up, and the colors tell you the different lot sizes, and we'll kind of go through that. Of course, you can see the same kind of, design with that. So let me just go through what each color is. Well, we'll zoom in. So the 8,500 lots, just, to let you know, we'll go find those real quick. They're basically in that reddish color. So you have this one up here and this block down here are all between 8 and 8,500. So those are the ones that we're kind of talking about, that because of layout, et cetera, they're going to have some that were down there. So let's then move on. The next color is kind of the yellowish, which is 85 to 9, 8,500 to 9. You can see those here, and then there's one, lot 67. So again, these are the two smallest within the development. So now we've covered anywhere from 8 to 9,000. The next color is the, it's kind of a, kind of strange green color, I guess. It's a light green. Those are 9,000 and 9,500. See a few of those in the north section here. Then down on the other side of 4200 South, that bank of them from 68 through 73. And then the last two colors take in the 9,500 square foot to 10 and above, and that's the dark blue. I'll zoom out so you kind of get it. Right, so almost half of them are in the higher category with the blue, and so there's kind of how they've if they were to come back in after the zone change, the preliminary plat could look something like this. So again, the road on the top would be Treasure Valley Boulevard. The one running through the middle is a 4200 South, which is one of our major collector streets. That's the one that's made and designed to go all the way over to Washington Field Road. Treasure Valley Road is kind of made to go that way too, but it ties into 4200 and then runs through the Hoops development. Now that was one of the big issues we had with a lot of the open, the public hearings, was a lot of folks concerned about the road. So we brought that design. I think the council remembers seeing that we brought the proposal that Public Works is going to give you folks, on that new master transportation plan.
How many of these roads are private roads?
0.
Okay, so they're all wide enough for
They're
our
all 50
fire
foot or
engines
greater.
and 50.
Yes.
Okay.
And within this, I mean, the number one concern you just brought up again was just with so much growing in this area and connecting into Washington Field Road as soon as possible. There's just a huge strain that's been put on the people due to the improvements of the school that's in the area. One thing I was just kind of curious about, I've not seen, this is really unique for me as a council member to see such a diverse layout of lots. Because of the diversity of these lots, is that why they got a bonus density? I'm just verifying.
No, they're not going for bonus density. They knew that they wanted to come in and do an R110. But as they laid it out, because of, you see this piece down here with the curve to it,
Okay.
they knew they were dealing with Treasure Valley Boulevard, also 4200 South. And as they broke this piece up with the acreage they got in the general plan amendment, they started laying this out. And that's how all the engineers will do it. They have a drafts person lay these out. And they realized that they were going to have some lots that were down in that, that would not fit in the 10. And so they knew they were going to have some high 9s. They knew they were going to have to end up with some 8s. So what I usually tell them, you can't have any one lot smaller than whatever the category is. So if I come in, just to give you a little example, if I have R18 zoning, every lot has to be 8,000 or
Or
greater.
above.
So
Okay.
for them to do a 10, they would have had to hit every single one of them 10.
Right.
And
Okay, I
so, and what they've actually done is, they were given the medium density, general plan, and that carries again the R2, the R16, and the R18 zoning. So they went to the highest one, but they told us all along, because of the market, again, know that the market's driving a lot of the lots. I will tell you that Steeplechase right above it was an R16, and they came in with a bunch of, and Councilman Turrican was probably one of the few back then, it's that old, the only one who sat through that. And when we went through it together. They actually had like 6,000 and 7,000 square foot lots because they were kind of mirroring the smaller lots in Treasure Valley. Well, they started building it and nobody's looking at their lots and they're wondering why. They thought it was location. Then the real estate agent said, because the lots are too small. So they came back and amended their plat and bumped up their lots to, it's still R16, but the average lot in Steeplechase is probably an 8,500 to a 9,000 square foot lot. They actually amended twice.
So are these people held, because this isn't a preliminary plat.
No,
This is a
it's just
zone
zoning.
change.
They would not be held to this. No.
Yeah, I mean, so that looks good, but they're not held to that. And I don't see open space trails. We're talking 30 acres.
Yeah, and it's straight zoning, and we don't have anything in there that puts the noose around their neck to do so.
Except approval.
But that's what, it's PUD versus PCDs versus straight zoning.
I know.
So I
But I'm
pulled
glad
this
you
up.
brought that up.
Drew, I pulled this up. Is it the blue road's gonna come across and tie into Washington Fields Road, and they're showing that.
This is the
Carry
current.
through.
This is the current.
200.
I understand. Do you have any concerns with the roads coming from the south? They're gonna need to tie through, and do they need to tie through in the project? Or do they carry on to the south of the project?
Well, you saw that bend, sorry. You saw the bend in that design with the thing,
Right.
the colors. That's their property line.
No, I know that's their property line, but
And that's where this
they
road,
could take 4200 south and turn it south like this master plan shows and tie it in. And then they don't have to worry about tying it through because it'll carry along that property line. But
right.
where they're carrying it through the property, we've got that south road that's got to come up and either parallel or tie in somehow. So
That's why I like the new concept that Public Works is working on to get, adopted in, that 4200 runs and has the bend in it. Right here where it wouldn't dive like you see it right there out of Treasure Valley, it's going to run east and then kind of swoop
that's
up.
fine, but that green's going to come over and that's 2400.
Well,
I
that they're showing, Mike's going to come over and tell you what that proposal is. That's going to run along the ridge, I think.
I know that's St. George, but at some point it hits us.
And that was St. George. St. George is downsizing that road. They actually had that as a 90. They're dropping it to a 60. Our master plan had it coming in, and our purple road coming in there was an 85. We've worked with St. George. We've worked with the property owners in the area, and that's what our new plan is. Works much better than this plan. So that green dotted line actually comes and goes over and ties to Washington Fields Road.
You're happy, I'm happy. The master plan was showing on that property line or property split. I just want to make sure that it was.
Right, and the plan that we're going to be bringing to the council, we got several amendments we need to make. The transportation plan is coming up for revisiting anyway, but I think we need to make these amendments because we got these developments that are coming in. And we need to have that on our plan so we can have these people build to our plan. So you'll be seeing those coming really soon to the council.
So, sir, can you help me with that alignment again of what you're proposing with the green road there?
This road will come up, out in, this property somewhere like that.
So the purple road is not going to be there?
No, the Purple Road's gonna be realigned different.
Okay.
There's several different realignments.
Yeah.
So our main road coming down is still 42,000. Which is this one here. Then I come out and turn this one. This will turn this way.
Oh, so you're not on your tippy toes. Is that better? Can you reach it better?
When you say this one, that's the Treasure Valley Road's going to turn into 4200. Yeah.
From now, comes up, it will actually turn from instead of
Treasure Valley.
Treasure Valley will come that's possible.
What I thought. Okay.
It works much better. This was designed back in the school. There.
Mm.
When they moved the schools over here, we got
Okay. I'm happy if you're happy.
Knowing Mike's happy.
Whoa, now.
That's a giveaway.
You can cut me off.
Get me off.
Well, I don't need to be on Apple TV.
You guys, you don't need the color thing anymore. I was just giving you an idea to show you that's their concept right now. Yes, technically they could come in and not do that, but the general plan gave them an R18, R16, or R2, and so they're asking for the R18 tonight. And so they would have to be, the other options would be R16 and R2, which I don't think we want to consider. So I'm just kind of putting that in perspective. And so anything above R18, the more and the bigger
Well,
when they
and
do come to you.
PUD or no PUD, you know what we're concerned about.
Mhm.
And I'm using a we because I think that's fairly common with the council. Mostly present open space, 30 acres, all those homes. I like the diversity in the lot sizes. I think
There's a city park.
We've tried to
yeah,
have more
yeah.
diversity in lot sizes.
Yeah, but what's unique is that Treasure Valley has Treasure Valley Road, and it was made as a boulevard kind of a thing, as the art, as their bonus density. Anybody from this particular development can get right on Treasure Valley, follow that road, and they'll be at a park within a few minutes. Walking distance to the park.
If
And
there's
this,
a trail.
yeah, and also here, I need to. Can we go to Apple? Sorry, I think we're.
Well, they're
And the other thing is hopefully this is right. This borders
sidewalk streets.
the canal.
Who's here? Let me. Oh, jump in.
Also, this particular development borders the canal, which is hopefully in the future a trail system as well. On their west border, you already have a trail built into the Treasure Valley, right? You can see it right there. They'll border right next to that trail. So again, the trails and everything are kind of already in place for them. They got lucky, I guess, and they're
Yes, they did,
in
'cause
close
they're not
access.
committing any of their space to that.
Yeah. And that's, but I'm just saying, there's the canal that we hopefully will have a trail that'll lead all the way, maybe to the river someday, I think, if we followed it all the way.
That would be.
Can you zoom back out and orient me to where that park is?
Oh, sorry, I'll have to go to a whole different picture for you there.
Doug's favorite man.
There's the park on the far left.
And this is Treasure Valley that has nice sidewalks, both sides, landscape, down each side.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the sidewalks on that's all down Treasure Valley Road, they're actually 5 feet off back at curve.
Because of the
too.
tree-lined
They're separated
streets.
Because it's tree line.
Let me see if I can get, you can see it's actually a 10-foot on the one side, on the north side. This is what, again, they were trying to get bonus density credits, which they did. And so on the north side of Treasure Valley, you can see that's actually a 10-foot wide asphalt trail that runs all the way from their area here that's landscaped on this far east end, and it runs all the way. Sorry, I'm dragging you through the subdivision, but it takes you all the way to eventually park. On a 10-foot wide trail that borders this proposal on its west boundary. I think that kind of helps, I hope, a little bit there.
It helps a little bit. It's nice that they can benefit by the efforts of other people.
That's why the
Good
bonus,
planning.
that's why the bonus density does work, has worked a few times, you know, and it has benefited and been that, so.
It's why PUDs work too.
Any other questions for me? I still have a public hearing to open, I guess.
Yes.
I got
Did
lost.
you say what the planning commission
Oh, maybe I
decision
didn't.
was?
Maybe I got cut short. No, I did.
Did he?
It was unanimous decision for approval.
All right, thank you. This is, again, a public hearing. Any of you out there that want to comment on this proposed development?
Ryan Thomas with Development Solutions Group. I'd like to thank you, the council, for looking at our project today, and I'd like to thank you guys for entertaining looking at the layout, because I know you guys are not tied to the layout, but I think it's helpful, and that's what we're going to do. Is a project very similar to that. You know, when we get the preliminary plat, we're going to probably, as Councilwoman Granger talked about the trails, we want to put a trail on the 4200 South and extend that as if it's going over to Washington Fields Road. Put it on the side of the road also. We'll work with staff to see what side of the road they want it on, if they want it on the north side or the south side, to see which would make better sense.
Does it I don't know that it's currently has a trail down 4200 South on the Treasure Valley side. I know Treasure Valley Road does.
Yeah, you're correct, and that's why we'll want staff's input to see what will work better for them. I don't know what the school is doing on their frontage. I haven't looked at it. They're probably just doing sidewalk. But we plan on putting a trail on that road somewhere. And also, I'd like to point out that so the density, as Drew said, for this general plan is 4 to 7. The density we'll end up with is 3.1, around there, round numbers. So we're below 4, and the reason why we do different size lots is because that's what our builders that buy the lots, that's what they've been requesting. Some builders like to build smaller homes and not put in a lot of landscape. Other builders do. And some people don't want to maintain landscape. So
I personally like that concept because it does give some diversity to the subdivision. It isn't cookie cutter stuff. It's gets smaller and bigger and different size of homes and different layouts. And
some people want an RV pad, some people don't.
So I like the concept personally.
So yeah, thank you guys for listening to it and hearing it today. You got any questions I could add?
Just a couple of things I'd like to follow up with what you're saying is I appreciate you being true to your word on the densities you're proposing. That is a big thing that was hit hard for me as a council member, and to see you where you are is very respectful. I do love your concepts of trying to make these main artery roads more connective and pedestrian friendly. This seems like you've taken a lot of what citizens have said, and it fits within what you're trying to sell, fortunately. So I would just like to just really commend and appreciate the time that you've taken to hear out the concerns of the people who have come to these meetings And I'm really excited to see how in our new general plan with the transportation, how that will align better within things. But it looks like this is moving in the right direction. This is an improvement, to say the least. So thank you for your efforts.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Relation, aye.
Granger, aye.
Clef eye.
Ward, aye.
All right. Item C, public hearing for consideration to adopt a resolution and open and amend the Washington City 2018-2019 fiscal year budget. City manager?
Yeah, I'll have Kimberly come up just as we start the public hearing so she can walk through those line items and then we.
Mayor and Council, thanks for this opportunity to come before you this evening. So I think within your packets, there should have been a couple of different layers, some summary, and then as you drilled into it a little bit more deeper so that if you wanted to kind of see. This particular budget opening and amendment only affects the general fund portion of the total city budget. And at this time, we're looking to increase the total budget by $329,064. I did include some notes below to kind of identify what they are. The majority of it is related to some payroll changes that were made related to public safety and so forth based on the market that was brought before you at a workshop session, I think about a month ago, for you guys to review and address. And the other items that we added to the budget opening are basically carryover of funds that had items that had been ordered and purchased in this first fiscal year that just closed out, that have been back ordered and won't be able to be closed out in this year. So we're just requesting that funding to continue to roll over instead of become part of the fund balance. It was originally planned to have been spent, but with the back order items not being available to be fulfilled yet, we're just asking for that to roll over so that they can receive those items that have been purchased. It'll be part of the existing budget. Aside from those items, the community center has requested that we consolidate some of the part-time positions on their front desk in order to make a full-time position in that department. They were able to reduce some line items in other areas to help offset that to some extent. It does come with an overall increase of about $9,000, well, exactly $9,000 in terms of an add to their overall budget. And they have identified a corresponding increase in a revenue source related to preschool that would offset that additional increase in cost to their department. Yes.
So the intent is to consolidate some part-time jobs, create a full-time job, and the money used to pay for that would be increasing the rates at the preschool.
No increase of rate. We just believe based on utilization, the revenue will
increase use.
Yes. So they add an additional class this year and stuff that has allowed them to enroll more students. And so we're anticipating additional revenue beyond what was originally budgeted that would be able to cover that increase.
Thank you.
So no rate increase. Excuse me.
What is the reasoning behind the one full-time versus the part-time situation there? Is it more stability to that position?
In the notification that came over, I'll just identify some of the 3 areas that were pinpointed out. If you have further questions, then I'd welcome Ben or Barry to come up and address those personally. But as we reviewed it and they presented it to us in our management meetings, the main concerns were turnover. Basically, the average front desk worker was only staying about 6 months, which is hardly enough time to get them trained and caught up to speed to be able to actually function proficiently, and then they were moving on. And so they've had a high level of turnover, being able to provide some consistency as well to the customer, to recognize a familiar face that's there on a regular basis, and then to be able to reduce the number of errors and mistakes that are having to be correct because, again, of the constant turnover and training of the staff.
Makes sense.
Well, my concern is how is that going to affect insurance and other things we have to consider with a full-time employee over part-time?
Yes, that is factored into the overall cost of things, and that's why. So currently they have, let's see if I can find it. They have 13 front desk staff and 13 part-time front desk staff and 1 part-time coordinator. And the request is to reduce the 13 down to 9 and then change that part-time coordinator to a full-time coordinator. So the savings and cost associated with the labor we were paying on those other 4 positions that are being collapsed roll in to help pick up the cost of the position. So the overall shortfall was only that $9,000, which includes the estimated cost of benefits and wage for that position.
How long does it take to train an average person to work the front desk?
I'm gonna step back for a minute and
heard 6
let the
months.
community center.
Does it take 6
Yeah.
months to train? No,
That's
the
what I
question
heard.
was not training, it was their average time there was 6
Yeah, and they
months.
said about the time they got them trained, they were leaving. So I
So-
turned it to meet 6 months.
So,
That is the problem, is it takes, with what we're asking from the front desk to be that front-facing person that really knows everything that's going on, or at least they get all the questions. By the time they were learning all that, they were moving on. And so you are bringing someone new in. It's just a revolving door.
so by reducing the number of people, all you're doing is improving the role of the coordinator. You're not going to improve the people that are being kicked out and moving on in the solution, from what I understand, though, because you'll still have turnover in those 9 people.
Well, part of the proposal is we're going to slightly adjust the wages of that part-time. It's all within the structure of the funding to try and encourage people to stay longer. But by having one consistent spot there, we're hoping that that will give us better, consistent training. They'll be able to stay with it. And part of our rationale is you're never going to get rid of the front desk. So when we consider important things that we think are long-term viable, that's never going to go away. It allows us, heaven forbid, we have a downtime, as we may be able to shed some part-time positions without being able to lose that knowledge base that's there. And so that's kind of one of the factors that we looked at.
So basically, we're going to create someone who will be more of a long-term stay, hopefully, to deal with the turnover. That basically is what it seems like it's translating to.
Yes.
By removing 4 positions, it's going to cost us $9,000 more, plus the loss of those people, those positions.
Essentially, we're restructuring a few things so that what you notice as far as coverage on the front desk will not change significantly. We're readjusting some things through the rock wall, and just making essentially that coordinator position, we're moving up to the front line as part of that process. Rather than being a back office worker, we wanted to move them up so they would be kind of your most public facing position.
So who currently acts as that person right now? Is there a administrator or something over that?
The position that part-time was kind of managing that right now, left employment last month. So right now we have nobody in that position.
They want to hire somebody.
So before we move a part-time person back, we would like to bring in that position consideration.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Thanks.
Can you, before you go though, can you speak to the entrance, what we're doing there? Your public entrance?
Go ahead.
That funding is rollover funding. So again, I don't know if you've been to the community center lately, but if you walk in past the front desk and head down the hallway to where the double gyms are, there's another corridor that heads back to the east. And that is where Cole and Corinne's offices are located for recreation. And then previously, the door to go outside was an exit-only door. And so it had, like the alarm bars to push on it, but it wasn't an entrance and so forth. Well, to help facilitate with people, again, the front desk and that as well, for the recreation division to be able to process and handle signups for sports and things like that through their office, they have made some adjustments to the door so it's an additional entrance to the community center. And then the push doors are now up against the wall. So if you were in the community center to some extent, you wouldn't access the recreation from that side. You'd go from the outside, whereas right now they're not dealing heavily. I don't know if they are currently dealing heavily with the public or not, but it makes it more accessible in terms of registration for recreation, sports management. There's an additional, they just switched those doors out. And so it had been in the works, but as you know, contractors are very delayed and behind at this time. And so it ended up being July before those doors were able to be switched and moved over. So we're just rolling the funding forward for that project.
It's just curious, how do you get people, how do you let people know they need to go outside to go to that section?
It's basically, well, if you want to talk about that, but I'm assuming that it's just notification, signage and so forth. It's still an emergency exit for people to get in and out through that area as well. But the general access would be, hey, when you're coming to sign up, here's the recreation division, here's the main entrance to the community center.
So
And the reason it's
ultimate
kind
goal
of-
is to actually move the recreation over into its own parking lot, away from your front desk.
Right, correct.
Yeah, with the growth of recreation, this is a great space utilization option for us. We're basically using that hallway that we've done used for nothing. Now creating it in such a way that there's a desk there. We'll have a recreation person there now. We won't have to move them through the community center. They won't have to, and I think just over time, and we'll actually sign the door on that side too, because basically it's just a door that always was just closed. Nobody could open it. And so with the addition of the other doors into the hallway, I think it's a great space utilization, especially for growth. And city facility real estate is becoming a prime issue for us. So I really appreciate the work that's, and go up and look at this. This is actually very nice what they've done.
It'll still be accessible from the inside to go out in a fire situation.
Exactly. So what it'll have is it'll have the alarms, so that after hours, if somebody tries to go in and just mess around, it'll still set off the alarms, but it's accessible out for fire.
So we actually met with the fire chief and fire marshal. They came up and looked at it. We had to do the requirements as far as the exit, the ingress and egress. And so we did that. So those doors that were on the outside wall, we've actually taken those and moved them to the hallway. So it's the same doors, so they can still push and go through with an alarm at night. So those will be locked, not locked, but secured and keyed. So if somebody pushes into that area, the alarm will go off. But if in an emergency or anything like that, they can push through there. It's an exit. Both doors are exits all the way through, so they push all the way through. And it's a great office for sign-ups for park rentals, recreation. The front desk will no longer have to do.
And from what I understand, we've talked, Roger, about really rethinking how that front area will be, and moving them back will allow us to really consider the concept of what that front area will be.
Yeah, we're still waiting. We received initial word that we were successful. We just don't know how much we were successful. And money we requested from Zions Bank, and that was supposed to be formalized in July, and we have not heard yet. But we have some good plans there, but it's all going to be based upon not any funding from the city, but rather from some outside
donor
people. And so we're excited about that if that'll happen. Hopefully it will.
This is part of that same plan. This was planned and approved way back, and we had some money that was a one-time funding that we requested to do that, and we from other projects we saved some of that money and used the money that we saved on that office to do it right now without the Zions Bank on that section.
Well, I have to admit my bias is between myself and the members of my family. I think we average about 6 hours a day at that rec center. So I'd have to say it's been a valuable improvement for our home. So
well, and this will be a huge improvement long term as the growth comes. Right. It's needed right now, but it can be needed more in the future.
Just one little note, as a person that does go to that place every day, your windows on the track on the east side leak when there's rain. So just thought I'd throw it out there. Yeah.
A little bit.
Just saying like it is.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Again, this is a public hearing. Any of you out there that want to address any concerns or anything like that?
While we're waiting for somebody to stand up, can you tell me a little bit about the TNT auction? Was that just an availability of equipment that we were interested in?
It wasn't city equipment. What that was is the police department sale of basically stuff that has been seized and turned over. And so they collect it and it's held through all the trials and stuff. And then once it's not dispersed anymore and they've gathered enough, they go and sell it at auction. And so when they do that, we like to turn those funds over as one-time purchasing versus rolling them in to supplant the budget. And so they had ordered uniforms and rifles with funding associated with that, but they haven't been received yet.
Oh, so the uniforms were part of the purchase from those.
So the TNT was the one-time source of those funds, and then the purchase.
And just so you know, because this is a good question. This is so, and the council was involved in this because it kind of needs to be involved in it because it is the sale of confiscated stuff that have run their life. And so the council was involved in the actual kind of process and who they would allow. I think TNT was the middleman, the tenant, and the council kind of approved that. And so, good question, and this is one that is highly regulated by the council when we do these things. It doesn't happen all the time.
I think I made this point last time, but I'm concerned about the additional funds coming out of sales tax for the salaries and what the ongoing source of that continuing cost is going to be.
Well, that'll be all, it's kind of I mean, we've never earmarked specifically, where all that, I mean, it can be growth related right now. It can be, I mean, the general fund is one that has several sources that come in. We're working on that with the sustainable revenue group to try to get some earmarking. The funds are there. We're not concerned about the funds either now or moving into the future, but we have not earmarked specific. That's part of the process we're trying to do. And so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I'd just like to commend Kimberly Roosh for the job that she does. Every time I'm making this clear for us, you do a spectacular job in explaining and also making the numbers line up. And I can't say enough about your professionalism. Really well done. Thank you, Kimberly.
With that, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we close our public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward aye. Clough aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis aye.
Turek aye.
Thank you. And then we'll move on to item D, consideration to approve a resolution to open and amend the Washington City 2018-2019 fiscal year budget.
Mayor, having just discussed our opening and concluded that public hearing, I'll make the motion that we amend and approve the amendments to the Washington City budget as has been presented.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Ward aye.
Clough aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis aye.
Turek aye.
All right, that is approved. Move on to item E, public hearing for consideration to declare certain real property to be significant parcel and take steps to the sale/exchange such property. Property is 9.05 acres located approximately at the northeast corner of Buena Vista Boulevard and Graham Manor. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been a discussion we've had with the council, but as a necessary process to sell property, which is considered an asset of the city, we need to go through a declaration of surplus property. Under the state statute, if it's determined to not be a significant parcel, there's not a requirement for public hearing. If it is significant parcel, there's a requirement for public hearing. The council and the council has the right to do this, to set the definition of significant parcel. That was done years ago, and that was of anything of a value of 100,000 or more. And so for that reason, this piece of parcel does meet that criteria. And so for that reason, there's necessary to have a public hearing. I wanted to pull this up so others would know what piece or parcel we're looking at, just to orient everyone. Of course, right in the middle is I-15. Maybe I can, this is I-15 and this is Buena Vista. And this is the Warm Springs area right in here. And this is, for those of you who've been around for a while, this is the parcel that used to have the old radio tower on it.
Radio tower is still there.
Sorry?
To the right.
Right here. I'm sorry, the billboard was throwing me off. Right there. Because there's a billboard there and a billboard there. Okay, so thank you. This is the parcel, and the radio tower sat right up in here, and there was a little building right there. And it's a kind of a funny piece. It kind of comes along here and then narrows down to a point. And so what I'm going to ask of the council, though, and we have had some discussion on this, is I would like to have the council declare this, and this would, declaration of surplus property is necessary before any listing occurs. What I would request of the council, based upon input of the hearing as well as your decision, that we move forward with the declaration of surplus property. However, because of some changing circumstances, I would indicate that I'm not necessarily saying we would list it immediately.
Councilman Club, it's not the same parcel and it won't. It won't work.
All I'm doing is double checking my notes. I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah, I figured that's what you were going for.
Yeah, I was like, is this the same place?
No, and as a matter of fact, to take that a step further, and I have no idea what you're talking about, but I think I know what you're talking about. So
I was just doing a quick check of like, okay, we're talking about the same place here.
I actually asked the question of some today if this would work. But it really doesn't for that particular purpose. If you're talking
It'll
about
be
the debris
addressed further
basins,
up
yeah.
from there.
So,
yeah.
But again, with the landowner we're talking to on the debris basin, and probably a willingness for them to participate in land anyway, we wouldn't probably want to do this anyway. So had we been purchasing the land, it might be different. But
Grade on this is pretty significant though, coming down through there.
yeah, there's a pretty good grade coming off
You
those
can't
homes.
see it from here, but it comes down pretty.
So what options does that give us if we list it and then, or we
All it would-
designate it as?
All it would do by declaring it, the only reason I'm saying let's move through the process with surplus is because we don't have to go through the public hearing process again. It avoids that. It avoids having to go through that again if we decide to do this. The only disruption we've had at the moment is simply that we were considering this parcel to liquidate for the fact that we were looking at another piece, and that other piece has significantly slowed doan for some reasons I'll visit with you on. So for that reason, I don't feel a rush or a haste to list, and it's up to you. We don't have to declare it, but I thought since we've gone through the process, it had been notified and everything, and it doesn't still require us.
So remind me of the provenance of this parcel. Where did the city get this? What are we, was there ever
I couldn't even
plans?
answer that.
Was there ever
In the
plans
city-
for it?
Matter of fact, let me tell you how old this piece is in the city, that when we went to have this piece surveyed, they couldn't even, some of the survey information is just so old that it's very difficult to do. So I'm pretty sure that none of the staff even know where this came from, because I think it was a piece that's been.
And no plans? We've never really kind of decided anything to do with it, just.
So is the benefit of listing it this time simply because of there's value of the market that we might be able to get more money in for?
Yeah, the primary reason we were listing it is because we wanted proceeds to consider the purchase of another piece of ground. That was the primary reason we talked about it. Again, where that may be delayed, there's not a compelling reason for that. Certainly, market conditions, you'd want to sell it, but I'm just saying that I'm not as in a big a rush as I was a week ago.
I remember. I'm aware of what we're talking about.
And so, but I would just say, since we've gone through the process, if you want to do this, but certainly any listing at this point, it'd still come back to this council. It just would not require a public.
Thank you.
To declare it surplus.
Yeah. So at least that gives kind of the public an idea where that is too.
Well,
Any other questions for the manager?
no.
Okay. Again, it's a public hearing. Any of you that want to voice an opinion on it?
So what's the, Courtney leads. What's the other piece of land you're looking at buying?
Well, right now that's in an executive session, and when the time comes that the city decides to purchase that land, it'll come into a public meeting. That is one of the items that city councils are allowed to discuss in closed sessions.
And what would be the motivation to avoid, for the surplus property,
why do you want to avoid future public hearings?
I'm just saying, we're going through the process now to deem this surplus. We've already notified and posted that way. And so my recommendation is to continue this and make the decision based upon it.
But you stated clearly that your intention was to avoid future public hearings.
We don't just need to have another public hearing that we've already posted. We're posting for a public hearing tonight. You're here speaking on it. We'll take that input. The council can then decide off this public hearing.
It's not a matter of avoiding a public hearing. It's a matter of, we're having the public hearing now. We don't have to double up and have a similar public hearing again.
At a time when you would divulge what the future other piece of property is.
Well,
So
that-
currently that's an anonymous.
They're not.
The two aren't tied. So from a governmental perspective, everything's open. There's only a few very itemized matters that can be kept for closed session, executive sessions. One is if a governmental entity is thinking of buying or selling during that negotiation process, because obviously what it does is it puts the citizen money at jeopardy if you disclose, oh, we're negotiating to purchase a 2-acre parcel over there, because then everybody else in the market who may want to buy for that land knows everything you're thinking about and talking about, which jeopardizes your negotiating perspective with buyers or sellers, just from a pure property perspective. This has nothing to do with the other. The tie of when the city has to sell property and it has it in excess, so it doesn't need, it has no plans for it. It's not putting a new basketball court on or a school on it right now. Before it can even consider accepting or talking to someone who may be interested in it, they have to declare it to the rest of the citizens, to the citizens of the community, that this is excess. We're not planning on doing anything with it. In the future, it may be sold or traded. But before the decision to sell or trade comes about, this group still has to approve it in an open meeting. So nothing, this is just in this separate process that government has to go through, just to state, we have an excess piece of property that we may at some point sell. We want to let you know, the public, that may happen one day. But when it does, we still have to approve it in the public, in a public meeting.
You have to approve the sale in a public
Right.
meeting.
Correct. Right. This is just a technical process that the state a few years ago required you to tell your public at some time in the future, we may be selling excess property we're not using right now.
So your role tonight would be to stand up and say, I don't think you should deem it surplus for this reason.
Yeah, we just want to keep that property around for something else maybe.
I'm not comfortable being told what my role is, but my question was, the motion that you're going to make is to forego future public discussion.
No. The public hearing right now. So we don't have to have this exact same public hearing that says, here is
Land that we
we're
want
not
to sell.
using. We may sell it one day. If you'd like some input, without us defining your role of that input, you may come and do so. That's the only difference.
I think maybe just to add a little clarity or maybe a little more muddy water. When this first went on the agenda, there were some parts moving quite quickly that property was probably going to be disposed of had the council approved it going forward. Those things have slowed down now. So what he was saying is, as of a week ago, we probably were moving faster. So we can do away and not have the public hearing tonight, and we'll start the process all over again when it's there. Or we can go ahead, since we've advertised and done it, we can have the public hearing, and then that piece of the puzzle's put into place. So if it starts to move forward again, we do not have to start over again and hold the public hearing. We can then just move into the council for council action.
And the council action is still a public.
And that's held in a public meeting, just not a public hearing.
Right. What's going to be done with that property would still be.
So the action would take place in front of the public, but the public input would be tonight.
So functionally, there's no public input when the decision is made. It's
Correct,
functionally
yeah.
the same as a closed meeting,
It's
essentially.
terminology difference is basically public hearings are when the public gets to converse and talk with the council. Public meetings are meetings of the council in front of the public, but the public really doesn't have much input.
And then there's the third tier, I guess, which is the closed meeting.
The closed meetings, which are
Or
held
the fourth
on,
tier?
they're held for basically 4 criteria. They're very specific criteria that you can only hold in those, and that is by state law.
And the reason for confidentiality on the parcel that you might consider purchasing. It's completely a negotiation strategy?
That has nothing to do with this public hearing part. This public hearing of having excess property has to happen, whether it's because that could have been an element which could have better, easier financed it for the community versus just taking it from tax money that may be there set aside for it. It could have been used from the excess sales money, but it has absolutely really nothing to do with the process of saying, we have excess land. We're thinking about potentially selling it one day. By state law, we have to announce that at a public hearing, period. So you may have to ask our state legislatures why that whole separate process is needed.
No, I realize that it's a box checking activity. My question is, you said that the reason for the sale was to potentially buy another parcel, but you can't divulge what the parcel is for negotiation packages. Am I missing that? Am I missing something?
No, that's exactly. On this property, that would go into a closed session too, if we're discussing an offer that we receive on this property. The question for tonight is this a piece of property that the city has use of in the future? Or is it disposable? Is it something that we would entertain selling? And for me, I see no value to it. It's not a value for a park. It's not a value for anything else. And so I don't see any reason why not to say to the staff that, yes, we would be willing to sell it at the right point in time. Go ahead and list it and we'll see if we get any offers.
But as was stated, specifically, the sale of the lot would be for a purchase of another lot. It's almost already earmarked money in a sense. It might not be specifically what the new property would be, but the money is essentially already earmarked. Did I miss that? Did I hear that wrong?
No. There was a question by the councilman of what was a potential use. I said that is a potential use. Before that potential use is defined, that will be decided on by the council. There are lots of things that it could be used for. It could go into general fund if the council decided the proceeds. It could go to streets department if the council decided. That was one discussion that we had. Those discussions will not be divulged because that's a different piece that has nothing to do with this, but that could be used for that, just like it could be used for a myriad of other things.
Fairness and clarifying, because I kind of started this concern you have, is we talk about a lot of things in the city. Some are related, some are not, and I was seeking a clarification. The money obviously is used responsibly. There's nothing that's closed doors in the concept of the sale of the land or anything. When we have certain properties, we see, okay, as a council, do we see this as a value to improve in this area? And we've talked about things like schools and everything else. If we see any of that, where they would do those things, it gives us the opportunity to let staff list it, make the improvement, and those proceeds go back into the city. Now, are there a lot of things that happen outside of any particular thing? Yeah, but this one, all they're listing is, can we sell this, council? Do you see a reason why we should hold on to it? That is all we are discussing tonight. So I apologize for some flags or things you may have thought, but that is as simple as this discussion is going tonight. Do we see a reason to keep this? Yes or no? And if you see a reason to list it, do you agree with us? Let's go ahead and list it. And that is as deep as this discussion is going, as far as we really can discuss it and talk about it.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the funds generated from the sale are completely open-ended. They could be allocated anywhere.
That's what we do as the council.
Yeah. Not dedicated fund.
But there is no sale on the parcel yet. It's not
exactly
even been listed. It's not even been determined.
We don't know its value.
That it's available for sale, or that we would be willing to sell.
We just know one of the triggers for us is this property worth more than $100,000? Yes, goes to the council. The council says list it, see what happens to it, and where it goes with the funds after that will come back to some degree with the council to discuss what happens with it.
No, I understand the $100,000. So that's the mark that whether or not it needs to be public meeting or not is what he indicated. Is that if it's below 100,000, you don't have to divulge it to the public. If it is above, you do. Obviously, there's not a sale. It's not listed. But what my question was, you posed it as, where could this money possibly go? Is that how you worded it? And something to that effect. I'm not quoting you, and he said, he gave us for instance, a future property. It was just a for instance.
And I see what you're saying. Yes, because we are growing so fast, so many things are being proposed to us. And that's all I'm just saying is there are a lot of closed door reasons why we don't talk about things. Research it, it's unique. But I'll say on this particular property, I just wanted to give the clarification. All that we're talking about tonight is really all that we're doing. Is this a property we're keeping, yes or no? And that's what they're going to get from us tonight.
You did tell me to research something else before, and when I
Research the reasons why it goes into a closed door session.
yeah, and I get it,
And that's the reason, I mean, it's just a public trust in the laws that we abide by. And so it's just a trust we have to the community, public, and the laws for the betterment of our city.
No, I get it. But my question was clear, and I've got the answer, I'm pretty sure.
Good.
And that is that the money is open-ended. It can be allocated anywhere.
Right. Thank you. Questions? There's still things that I'm trying to understand, so I appreciate you trying to see how much I understand about that. Thank you.
But in the course of that allocation, we have a lot of rules that we follow. Okay. We have a lot of open meetings that we follow when we do a budget. The process goes on for months.
You actually witnessed one tonight, a budget opening and a public hearing associated with it. They cannot allocate funds to without a public hearing.
All right. Any others? Now I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Fellas and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
All right. Item F, consideration to approve a resolution authorizing the sale of real property declared to be significant parcel and take steps to sell/exchange such property pursuant to Washington City Code 6-2-2.
Do we want to modify that to remove the take steps to sale?
Well, I believe just to give us that option now again. We'll bring that back to you, but.
Yeah, that process.
Yeah,
Just have to
that
approve it.
process.
You just have to approve the sale.
That's a consideration only.
Yeah, I see no reason to extend the process. I mean, all it does is check the block and so we can move forward at the right point in time and everything's been in place. So with that, I make a motion that we approve a resolution authorizing the sale of real property declared to be a significant parcel and take steps to sell or exchange such property pursuant to Washington City Code.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second.
As a part of a discussion on that, do we need to put an expiration date on that to look at it again? Is there any
The
benefit
expiration
to?
date's gonna be, we can't do anything without, an offer or a buyer or whatever else, so.
I guess the check and balance, just the one consideration is you don't approve the sale.
Yeah.
We still have
Yeah,
the
and
ability to say
there's no public process that if you decide sometime down the road before a sale has occurred, we found a use for it, we'll pull it back in. This doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
So if we were to say, oh, wait, change our mind, pull it back.
This does not put it on a course that is.
Destined to sell, has to sell.
Necessary requirement.
Right. You just want to have the ability to.
I guess it's follow, if we had a use for it, it would no longer be, then almost by definition, if we had a different use, and we put another community center on it, it would no longer be,
It's not flat, it doesn't work for a park, it doesn't work for.
I agree with the grading and the contouring.
Soccer
I don't
fields,
see-
it doesn't
seeing
work
the
for
benefits
a
of the
lot of
city.
reasons.
So if someone else sees
So-
the benefit and we can get something of value to the city. It's
The mayor looked at me, Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Fellas and I.
Good job, Councilman Ward. You're doing great. Aye, Turek.
All right. Report. Any report from your assigned committees?
I just would like to say our Washington City Youth Council is about ready to kick off. Carmen Snow is doing an excellent job. I came home to a beautiful red box that says pack your bags and a cute little invitation and the shirt for the year. And, we're going to be down off of Washington Dam Road from 10 to 2 o'clock on Saturday talking about the goals and visions of the council for this year. So I'm looking forward to getting back into seeing what they're trying to do and to involve them more in what we do. As a
Councilman,
council.
did she find somebody to help her out?
I have not talked to Carmen about that. Sherry is moving on. She said that she was grooming a few candidates,
Yeah.
but did not tell me who she would like to have in.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, maybe just an update on our Springdale to St. George transit issue. It came back from UDOT that we probably needed to go through an RFQ process to pick our planner. So that is going to go out for requests for qualifications from planners. As a part of that, they broke that committee down to a committee of 3, being the UDOT representative, Mayor Smith from Springdale, and Commissioner Renstrom. I was going to say Rehnquist, that wasn't the name. Commissioner Renstrom. So there'll be a committee of 3, which will then pick the planner out of that RFQ, and then the main committee will come back again to work with that planner. So it's moving along quite quickly as far as that process. So we'll see some more probably within a month, maybe. We'll see some movement there. So.
Mayor, I'll be, with respect to solid waste, we're exploring a new facility that will process trash totally different. We'll hopefully we'll gain some ground with that because it's kind of a neat process to where they process trash and refuse rather than landfill trash and refuse. And so for a long-term solution for the area, it's quite interesting. So I'll be going to tour that next month and hopefully have a report the following.
That'd be interesting. They have a sorting process with that?
They do. They actually take all the trash that comes in, crush it, and then it goes through a sorting process, and they can take it and get down to, like for glass, for example, they will actually pull the glass out and can refine it down to different colors of glass. You know, so it breaks it down quite well, and then the refuse that can't be processed goes into another process that combines it and turns it into fuel pellets. So it's kind of interesting. They said that if it does what they say it does, we can actually go back through our current landfill and eliminate our current landfill, which would be really cool. It's worth going and checking out.
Then we'd have some land or something. Yeah. Okay, I met with Active Transportation. They're looking at redoing some of the committee. A little bit of delay on some of the striping in some roads that we're still trying to get straightened out. I think some of the work we're doing. So.
Are you talking like more up north?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. But still proceeding. And they're doing these bicycle things with the schools and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're looking for a new chairman. I think the chairman would like some relief. So.
Who's the chair? Who's the current chairman?
It's one of our finance people.
Brian. Brian wants out.
I don't know how much he wants out, but well, after they completed all the study and all the reports, and that's been infused into the workload of the departments, I think they're maybe wanting to restart it again. So.
Thank you. Anything else? City manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me update you on a couple of projects that's going on. I think we mentioned to you that we're, with regards to Merrill Road, we had a good arbitration session, and we're working on another appraisal down there and some other things that the family is working on, but that's moving along. And that'll just take a little time, however long an appraisal will take. And then we'll be back to probably make a decision at that point.
I was going to say that's you see that St. George is widening their side of the
that side
Paul
now.
Drive right now, so that road becomes more imperative.
It's going to get interesting if you can get them to put similar numbers, though. Didn't you say you had that conversation with Mayor Pike?
Yeah.
Fix the numbers.
I think that we're coming to resolution.
Yeah.
So again, it was a good session, and the state ombudsman did a great job with that. The crew has been, between everything else, slipping in the road project, the maintenance project, and they should be finished by tonight. I think they're working late tonight, right, Mike? And then, of course, we'll do the sweeping over those roads over the next 2 or 3 weeks, get them cleaned up and make sure that they're doing well. Now, as part of the new road stuff, and this ties, I'm sharing this because this ties back into our active transportation. All the new road stuff, of course, will also be striped with bike lanes on those appropriate roads that have the bike lanes. So kind of we're starting to see some implementation of the active transportation plan that you all worked on.
That's interesting. When you put chip seal down that bike and stripe it. Those bikers love your chip seal. There you go.
As someone who's done some biking in the city, I really appreciate the bike lane. It's a lot more helpful than the share the road sign.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And I appreciate Mike. I mean, we recognize it. This is kind of evolutionary for us, and we knew that the share of the roads were just kind of a stopgap for a period.
Oh, I'm not complaining about that.
No,
I am
right.
praising the
There's
other
a
part.
difference. There's a difference. I about hit this poor guy the other day.
Yeah, our goal with the bike lanes is to keep you in your lane, Councilman. Keep you in your lane is the reason for the bike lane.
That's not the lane you're supposed to drive in.
Hey, he's going pretty quick.
I'll mention this just because, within the next couple of months, you'll see this. We're having one of the GIS pieces that we've not had in place for a long time is the power. Power. We have, of course, a lot of as-builts and that and as you know, as part of this year's projects with power that you approved is that GIS being done with the power department, and we contracted that out. It's a very good price. ECI is the company. They're currently working on uploading the as-builts, which is that process. And then sometime in around November and December, you'll see field crews out with them doing those older areas and getting that data in. And the company will take it all the way through to completion for us. And it's a good price for us. And so this will be a great, a piece that we've had missing in the GIS system is the power.
So you say take it to completion. Did they give you an estimate of time for this, or is this
I'm
just
sure
for
they
starting
did. I
until
don't
it's
know
done?
it. Rick Hansen, who of course has been working on this, he'll know this. I don't know if I can say off the top of my head with any confidence.
Just curious. So.
And then I don't ever know how to say this, Barry. I'm going to say Oshuarian. The landscaping is all done there, and it's supposed to arrive tomorrow.
Oh.
And so all those people who have kept their relatives on the mantle for a long time will have an option now to do that. And I assume it'll come in parts probably, because it's a pretty massive structure. I don't know.
You have a picture. I think I showed you, and it's beautiful. I don't know if Councilman Turek's seen it or not, but
I
it's
haven't seen since we ordered it. I haven't seen it.
it turned out beautiful, and so they sent us a picture of it. I actually talked to the driver that we delivered some stuff in Denver today, and he will be here before 11 o'clock, and the crane's ordered for 11 o'clock, and so it's in one piece. It is in one piece. And
it is in one piece.
It's 6,000 pounds. They hook it up, they swing it over, and there's a few people there to bring it down that actually put it in place to make sure it's done
By
right.
Fridays, we could start interning folks.
Well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but we'll have some discussions on prices and things like that. But it's here. Yeah, it'll be here tomorrow.
Let's get this thing cracking. Let's christen this thing. Anyone got someone?
So yeah, it'd be good to have it here.
It'll be nice. It'll be a great addition to our community.
Come see it. It'll look nice.
So one final thing, I'll just give you an update on where we're at with the fundraising event with regards to the flood victims. I met with so the process we're working on right now is to work a lot with the faith-based organizations in the area. I met with probably the largest one, President Emerson Carnevale, and they're going to work play a big role in this. He offered some great advice on both timing of this and other things. And so we actually got a couple of dates that we're going to bounce off of him and get his input on that. There'll probably be a Wednesday night. And what this will mean is that the city will be the facilitator. So it'll be the community center. We'll open the community center up that evening free of charge for the community to come up with the understanding this is a fundraising event. We'll feed them hot dogs. So we're going to try to hammer a number down on that. Similar to the event we had once before, we'll have the ability on an online donation way to either, so if they don't show up, they can still donate, but if they do show up, they can donate right there. The funds will not be passed through the city at all. They'll just go directly into this particular fund. That's how we'll handle that. And then also as part of this, and the city's taken the lead on this, Oh, let me back up real quick. And again, we've got about 5 or 6 other faiths that we're reaching out to invite them to the project, to the event as well. And then as part of this too, the city is making contact with a number of major vendors in the area, places like Home Depot, Lowe's, Boulevard. We're talking to Southern Utah Home Builders Association, other things, to see if their organizational structure allows for individuals who need things to even get some of those things in this, whether it be case goods of some kind, sheet rock, whatever else.
Discounts.
And at best, if they can even get donated items, and we know that, for instance, Home Depot has a great organizational structure. I don't know all that they do, so I won't speak for them, but I know historically they've had a great organizational structure that has just done great things for communities. I actually was involved in a community that had that happen once. And but even if we can't get that, a good discount at cost, and so we're talking to them, and President Carnevale is very supportive, and so we're looking at it. Probably the one thing he wants to make sure is that it's not too. His input was that not too quick, so that we could get the word out, and that was good input. If you'll remember, President Carnevale was actually the recipient of one of the floods a number of years ago, and so he has great insight with respect to this, both from both points of view. So we're looking probably about a mid-September.
I would just hope, as we talk with these various groups, that we could find out how to get immediate access to volunteers. It's part of what our fire chief is now in charge of our emergency response system, and if we could find out how to get those and get them quickly, what numbers to call for future events.
I know Councilman Ward has another hat, and he's got some great direction that he's trying to provide to the organization too, along those very lines. Great ideas. He shared those with me the other day. I think it'd be great at some point to share them with the council, because they're just great ideas that he'll help some, at least the organization he has an influence with, to kind of try to approach that a little differently. We've always had, the mayor and I, we've had the opportunity to get to meet some of these other faiths as well. They're wonderful people. They're wonderful congregations. They look for opportunities to come and serve in the community. And I think this will be great to hopefully get them engaged.
I think let's do. I think there's potential hundreds of volunteers out there. It's just accessing them and getting good information to them and getting it to them quickly and get it to them very specifically. And if we know who those lead people are to call, I think we can. We can.
Yeah, that would be it would be an interesting thing to attach to that, even if there was just a side booth to have people sign up or start that discussion to be followed up later. That's a great point.
Well, so there's a couple of things that I think we still want to provide even that night. So we could do something like that night as well. The other thing is we'll have some information there on the National Flood Insurance Program, because a lot of misunderstanding on the National Flood Insurance. We got a lot of that information. And so we'll just distribute that stuff and have that available too, so people can take that and begin to mull over that.
Yeah, and I think it's less individual volunteers that we want to call. I think we want to call organizations who call those volunteers and get them out. So
key people you can get a phone tree from, and they can push information out and just
push it. I mean, I ran into some of that when I was trying to get volunteers that last flood incident. Realized there probably is a really great way to do this, and probably better than what I was trying to do.
Yeah, if you don't have it set up already, that's a great start, just to say, what can I do? Again, if we had it already set up in place and pulling, then we don't pull the fire chief away to try to answer questions.
All we have to do is say, turn it loose, and we need 200 or whatever it is, and I think we can get it. We just need it in place.
Yeah, so we'll keep you updated as those plans firm up. Right now, we're kind of communicating with different groups, and so we still got some things to firm up.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
2 points there. One thing that came out in the post discussions from last night's meeting was that we've told people that the city's insurance probably won't cover anything, and I think maybe too many of them have heard that as don't report. I wouldn't mind seeing a booth there where they could report.
Yeah. So here's the challenge we had, and it was frustrating because we actually think that one of the reasons that some didn't report is because of the confusion that came out of the county. So the county emergency director sent out a notice, and it actually kind of went through all the, because as you know, we're not the only community that had a problem. Lots of communities had the problem, and especially up in Dameron Valley. So about that same time, of course, the county emergency manager pushed out through the emergency services to report back to the county, and some of the individuals felt that the reporting back to the county was the filing. And all the county was doing was getting inventory to see if the county might meet the FEMA threshold for funding. I got very confused, and we've hopefully now rectified that in the future, because we had people that eventually we either contacted or they contacted us and said, well, we already filed the claim, and they hadn't. And again, we are being very upfront with the individuals that, you know, I mean, their insurance companies are basically the same type of insurance companies we have, and based upon the nature and size of the event, and that it's probably more than likely going to be denied, but we will work through that process to still do that.
It would be nice to have some resources there, even if just, hey, if you haven't filled this out, fill it out, turn this in, let's get you, and point people to the resources that they should be going to.
Yeah.
Taking a look.
The other reason why reporting is important for us, well, there's lots of reasons why it's important, but certainly is one particular one as it relates to the event is once we start, and we won't do this. What we did last time is we actually had a committee that helped disperse the funds. And the city probably plays very little role in that. But we had those individuals that helped were involved, helped disperse. But that's important. We need to know who those people are that they might. We talked to a lady the other day that had said that in one of the events, we only had an event like this once before. And she said she was part of that, but she had not notified anybody that she had the problem. So of course she didn't get part of the disbursement. So we want to make sure that for this event, that the reporting process is important too. And it takes a few weeks to kind of wrap it up too, even after the event. So.
My second point was you had mentioned reaching out to some of the other faith-based groups. I don't want to be a burden, but I would love to go along with and represent the city. And
oh, you're never a burden.
Yeah. Well, not in open meetings.
No, actually, that would be welcome. Last year, city manager and I, we had a breakfast and we entertained all the faith-based, and the only ones that showed up were not the ones that most of us are part of. But they really want to be involved in our city and all the activities.
That's great. It's really great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Rick, aye.
Bellis, aye.
Granger, aye.
Clef, aye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation tonight.